Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 15th of May, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
Get on with it.
And Robert Kemp.
Why the hurry?
Because it's 6:30 already.
I think you're not reading that clock correctly.
Oh, wait, there's the thing's hanging in front of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like it's 6:30 already.
It is 4:23.
It is not.
That is still later than we usually start.
That is later than we usually start, yes.
Slightly, yeah.
My trip to London might have got in the way of it.
Yes.
And how was your trip?
Well, you
I
were
was there, so I do know some about it.
I mean, it wasn't exactly a trip for Dan. I mean, it was still a trip, but
Yeah,
not
it's still-
as much of a trip.
I don't know.
It's right on the outskirts of what you could consider London, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's technically in Essex, so I think it took me just almost as long to get there as you did. I don't know.
Probably.
It took me well over an hour.
Yeah, good hour and a half drive for us to get there.
Yeah, about the same.
And maybe a bit. But yeah, it was Eurovision. We done a Eurovision.
We did. And we almost won a Eurovision.
We almost won a Eurovision. What is going on?
I know.
It's
Amazing.
a bit of a ridiculous thing to say, but like, if only there wasn't this war, we would have won.
that is.
Maybe. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible, right? If it wasn't for, okay, let's face it, Ukraine sympathy votes, which
Were inevitable.
were inevitable. Yeah.
And totally fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's. I mean, it's a double-edged sword for me because it's like, yeah, show solidarity for Ukraine. That's fine. But on the same breath, it's like, it's a music competition.
Yes, but it's always been like this.
But it's
never
always
been not political.
Exactly. It's always been like this. Yeah.
I mean,
Which then
we
makes me
wouldn't have
wonder if, like, actually were we getting sympathy votes as well for
Well,
our
I think
support
so.
of Ukraine?
Yeah, probably.
Well, we got 12 points from Ukraine. I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, probably, but like, I wonder how would that be news for like other nations to be like, and the UK are giving them a smeg ton of rockets or whatever, or weaponry.
Depends how much attention they're paying. Because it's not like, I mean, obviously the Americans are giving more, I would have thought, but we just.
probably.
I don't know. I mean, they're
I
giving
think
more
they
money. I think that
Yeah.
that much. It's fairly
They're,
simple.
they're doing a lot of training. I think the Americans like.
I think we were there a little earlier. We were a little more on the ball with supplying stuff before the war started, I think. Specifically, these NLAW things, they seem to be the big thing because they're a lot cheaper than the javelins.
Laws from Deus
Yeah.
Ex.
Well, it is,
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's NLAW but for next generation.
Oh, was that
Yeah.
what it was? Well, N-law.
Yeah,
He's also going to be the
long
next character in Tekken 7. Oh, wait, Tekken 8? No, Tekken 7 happened. Yeah.
Well, they could still release DLC, I guess.
Well, I think Law might already be in Tekken 7.
Well, sure, but
N-law, yeah,
It's
true.
going to be like a robot version of him in
Son
the
of-
classic Tekken style.
So, actually, was there? I'm trying to think. Was there already a son of Law? Did that already happen?
Oh, yeah, maybe. It sounds like something. But, make him a robot. That's how Tekken works, right?
P-Law.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be the problem. It'd be like P-Jack.
Yeah.
But then Jack was always a robot anyway. So
Well, true. He's just another robot.
oh,
He's
no,
a secondary robot.
no, wait. P-Jack was like prototype Jack. That's what the P stood for.
Right, yes.
So you could have P-Law and then Jack Law.
And then Laura actually turns out to be a robot all along.
yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
Just need to get Judge Dredd in there. Here's the law.
that should be a skin. That's probably what will happen, right? They'll just make a skin for Law.
Yes, but Judge Dredd
Yeah.
wouldn't map to Law's fighting style.
But no, it wouldn't at all.
No.
It wouldn't fit. But
Who would he be closer to?
Well, one of the more heavy.
Yeah, heavy. Yeah, characters.
yeah, like in a weird way, like Jack actually.
Yeah, exactly. With the guns also.
Yeah. Well, Jack doesn't really have guns, but he fires
does
his
kind of have
he sort of
guns.
fires his fists, doesn't
That's
he?
what I meant. A projectile in Tekken is not exactly common.
No, they're really projectiles. Like Tekken's done a really strong job of staying away from projectiles in general, unless you're playing as like Devil and you got like Angel and you got like the
Lasers.
laser eyes, yeah. And or Akuma, I suppose, the guest in Tekken 7, because you got his fireballs. Anyway, anywho, we might have won it. We might have won it. Maybe. Who knows? But the big question is like, does this start a trend in that the UK could potentially be trusted to have sensible entries?
I think,
because in fairness, our song was one of the strongest songs we've put in for a long time.
It was a very good song. I don't think next time we'll have as good a song, so
No.
It's unlikely. Or someone as positive and kind of inspiring as, what was his name?
Sam Ryder.
Sam Ryder.
Not Sean
he's
Ryder.
A cool dude.
Which I also would have appreciated quite a lot.
I mean, pills, thrills, and belly aches. That would be amazing.
Sean Ryder.
We could step on the Eurovision stage. That would be great.
That would be pretty funny.
It'd be twisting my melon, man.
He'd have a hard time keeping it clean if they interviewed him in the green room.
I don't think that would work, yeah.
But
that was my all-time favourite joke on Banzai, that slightly, well,
how much coke
racist.
does it take to keep Sean Ryder high?
Yeah, British TV show based on kind of parodying Japanese game shows that no one in Britain has seen.
Kind of
a comedy thing.
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, and that was it. Yeah, how much coke does it take to get Sean Ryder high by having him on a seesaw and then piling up cans of coke on the other side? If you had to guess.
The Banzai was brilliant. Like you said, borderline racist. Actually,
Borderline
probably
racist.
Completely racist. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
over the border racist. Yeah, but yeah, that was.
But a lot of fun. I don't know. What do you think about like the state of Eurovision as a whole this year? It's like, I don't know. I think it was a kind of a dull year, if I'm being honest. There wasn't like, I'm now thinking like the morning after or the day after now, and I'm sort of trying to remember half of what we watched, and it's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean.
There
was some Eurovision
Gnome just
madness.
shouted, "Give the wolf a banana!" like at us, and it's like
Yeah,
I'd forgotten.
that was like the
I had
novelty
literally
song.
forgotten that existed until Gnome just said it. It's like it just
But it
left my mind.
But that got trumped in my mind by Serbia's hand washing insanity.
Exactly, yeah. But that stays around not because of the song. I can't remember the song at all.
No,
but I remember the ridiculous medical staging and the fact that was a song about Meghan Markle's hair.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
It's obscene.
I was here for it.
And weirdly, I remember like the Netherlands ballad just because it goes ooh ah as its main lyrics. Ooh ah.
I finally know what that reminds me of. I was trying to think all yesterday what that was reminding me of, and it reminds me of the Adam and Joe Robert De Niro song. From the Adam and Joe show in the 90s. It's like, his name is Bobby. Ooh, Bobby De Niro. Ah.
Okay, that's relatively similar.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what the reminded me of, and now I remember.
And that's probably it. I mean, France had the banger, I think. But it was the weird.
Like, they got almost no points.
Almost no points. Yeah, I think with their cultist banger beat, it was pretty great.
Yeah, their weird kind of Celtic Breton green fire.
Yep,
like a kind of witchcraft kind of thing.
And I must say, I'm very humbled by the responsibility I've been given of holding on to the last place trophy for a year in the Eurovision gambling game.
Good work.
I know, strong result. Who'd have thought Azerbaijan?
No, I came last time. I'm sure I came last.
Yeah, you came last time. That's why I'm taking the responsibility.
Yeah. You're taking the okay. Did John win last year? I can't remember.
No.
No. I think Vanessa did. Yeah. They're competitive, those guys, and they do a lot better than us.
Relatively dull year. I'm just gonna say that, and the actual show and the quality of what was presented before us, quite poor. The Italians didn't really nail it.
Certainly not on their banter sections.
I mean, it was even worse. Like, you expect it to be bad, but somehow this wasn't even funny bad, right? Like, there's a certain element where you can enjoy its terribleness, but this didn't walk that line.
Yeah, it was almost incomprehensible, some of the things they were trying to joke about. Yeah. was bizarre.
I think Graham Norton said it right, and it's like somewhere along the chain they had some good ideas that could have been funny, and then forgot about the funny bit.
Yeah, left out the writing part.
That was Eurovision.
Yeah.
And now I've got to unfortunately wait an entire year for another one, and contemplate the horror that would possibly be an American version somehow.
Where did you hear about this American equivalent?
I think Noma had heard about it. I haven't heard anything about it myself, but
I would like to see that if they did.
I mean,
it would be
if
so
it was state
different.
limited, right? That would be pretty interesting.
I mean, that would be what it would be, right? It's got to be that.
But then every single song would be American, which might actually be like the problem, right?
Yeah, but like it would give them the opportunity that Eurovision gives European countries to stupidly do a cultural thing from their state.
Yeah.
So you get like weird cowboy song from Texas or whatever.
Not that doesn't stop Europe from trying a cowboy song periodically.
That's true. I could just imagine. Come on, Idaho. Fuck you, California.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to support the underdogs of US states.
How would the interstate political voting work?
The Idaho potato song.
Oklahoma all the way.
It could be pretty funny. Maybe just once. And it would be they'd have to be quite precise with their rulings, I think, like but then again, like Eurovision doesn't really have major rules, does it? It's like, oh no, we'll bring in number one artists at like some countries and just no, they already have a hit. It's in the charts right now, and now it's in Eurovision. It's which seems a little off to me. There's something nice about the UK approach of bringing in amateurs most of the time.
Well, I feel like that might be where the American version would be even more interesting. Would be like, are there enough individual acts from each state even to make that a?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, sure, but like no one would know them.
No,
which would be why that would be more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if it was.
It would be like Europe in that some countries are absolutely tiny in Europe and some are huge, right? Yeah. So it would be like Texas versus Rhode Island.
Yeah,
right.
But that would probably be fine because of regional hip hop scenes.
I don't know what the Rhode Island hip hop scene is like.
I don't know, but
Delaware.
Eurovision. It's done.
There's a Eurovision comedy film, but there's no Eurovision game that I'm aware of. There probably is. There's an app, obviously, but there needs to be
I bet one year someone made a karaoke Eurovision game.
Why don't Just Dance put out like a Eurovision version or Eurovision DLC every year?
It's probably too much effort to You wouldn't be able to make that content fast enough for it still to be relevant by the time you put it out.
Maybe not.
No one would care.
That's true. Getting ahead of it might be tricky.
Is there any kind of Beat Saber game that you could make? No, I suppose not.
I was about to say like Beat Saber or games with like a step sequencer built in might be the best places they could just knock something out.
Yeah, but that's not real DLC then, is it? It's
no. Well, it'll be easier for them to make, I suppose, because they won't need to go to town like Just Dance do with actually having some sort of graphics build for it. They could just put the MP3 and a step sequence in and then job done.
Yes, but then the modders will do that for them. You don't even need to do that.
Exactly. But I think that's how... Beat Saber presumably do paid for DLC to help them make some money.
I don't know if they even do. There might be like audio surf where it's just like they just put out the game.
Don't actually know. What else is happening? Anyone seen anything good?
Yeah, what else is going on? You didn't watch Eurovision, did you, Zach? What did you do instead?
No, I played games instead.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, exactly.
like a good podcast member.
Yeah, content.
We should probably talk
about.
Really, though. We should probably talk about that Super Mario film.
Should we? And also not that Super Mario film, the other one.
Not the new one, not the not out Super Mario film. We watched the Super Mario film as it stands today.
Not sure why we did that, but
because it was there.
Interesting. Because it was there on some streaming service.
And was it? Who was it? Was it you that hadn't seen it before, like ever?
I had. Why? Had you seen it before?
Oh yeah, I'd seen it before.
Oh no,
I'd
never seen it.
I'd seen it quite a lot as a kid.
I mean, I don't think I'd seen the whole
really?
thing all the way through, but I think I've seen like 90% of that film outside of seeing the film.
I get the feeling I might have had it on VHS.
Okay. That seems probable.
I hadn't even seen clips of it apart from I thought I'd seen stills from it and stuff like when I was a kid and thought it looked a lot creepier than it actually turned out to be. I mean, it is creepy in places, but like
visually,
I remember
weird,
seeing,
right?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing just pictures of like the Yoshi kind of dinosaur and maybe the Goombas and thinking it must have been a lot creepier. But I suppose if you're a kid, it probably was creepier than watching it now. But yeah, I don't know. I thought there was a more threatening dinosaur, but Yoshi was just a friendly dinosaur, but just looked like a not realistic, but like a Jurassic Park Velociraptor, but cheaper.
Yeah, the closest you really get to a dinosaur is right at the end when Bowser is sort of devolving for a moment.
Right? Yeah. Man, it's weird. Anyway, yeah. Interesting that got made. I mean, I can see why Nintendo were like, okay, we're going to keep the rights close to our chest from now on after giving them what was obviously almost full creative control, right?
I'm not. When did those CDI games come out? I'm just trying to think. Was this like it must have been pretty close? But I'm wondering if like that came out and the CDI games came out, and like the two things together were what kind of did it.
The CDI games definitely got closer than the film.
Yeah, but still weird, right? Squadlar and all that. You will die. But thank God those exist. If not for anything else other than the YouTube poops.
Yeah, there must be poops of this though, of Super Mario Brothers that I haven't
maybe
come across.
Probably.
Yeah, that's
you don't need
probably
to
quite
poop
good
it that
material.
much. It's already a poop itself.
It's already pretty poop. Yeah. So, I mean, should we go to explain what the hell's going on in that film? I mean, it's not. It's very loose, isn't it?
Probably knows.
Although
They're just
there's a meteorite that split the dimensions between, and reptiles flourished in one and mammals flourished in the other.
Except the reptiles didn't flourish because they didn't have any natural resources for some unexplained reason.
Because they, for some reason, went across the dimension. Like that. Well, their version of the dimension seemed like a very small planet that was mostly desert, other than the city, which I can't even remember if it had a name. Is it just Cooper City or something? But the Mushroom Kingdom. I'm not even sure it's called the Mushroom Kingdom in there, is it? Like, I'm not sure they reference that at all. Other than that the king is a fungus. Like an evolution of a fungus.
Yes, they might have.
But it is the Mushroom Kingdom,
referenced it to be like, this is your kingdom of mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe. It's a kingdom of mushrooms now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they steal someone who is, Peach, who was abandoned in the human world for some reason.
It's not Peach,
it's Daisy.
It's Daisy for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Is
Daisy probably because they couldn't think of a reason to have an actual human called Peach. Daisy sounds much more reasonable. I mean, not Peach is not that of an unreasonable a name.
Is that why we ended up with Daisy? Is the film the reason we have Daisy in actual Nintendo canon now?
But is Daisy the princess you are trying to rescue
no, that might have
original Mario?
That might have actually been a name in original Mario Brothers.
Donkey Kong, I mean, in Donkey Kong.
No, that's Pauline.
Oh, that's Pauline. Okay.
But no, you might be right actually. Like when you're trying to rescue the princess in Super Mario 1, maybe it was referred to as Daisy at some point.
I don't know. I would have thought by then it would be Princess Peach. Yeah.
I'm not even sure. She had a name in Mario 2, right? Because you had a character select, and I think it put the name up when you...
Yes.
Right, yeah.
When you picked her. But I can't remember what that said either.
That was definitely Peach.
Speaking of segue, some minor game news. Apparently the Daisy fan base are not happy by the apparent omission from Mario Strikers.
Well, I mean, it's only an omission until they patch
it in
DLC
it in, which they will do. Probably. Alongside Birdo.
Well, alongside all the other fucking Mario characters that aren't in already.
Any other Mario? Dry Bones. Chuck in a Dry Bones. Why not? Or until it becomes Nintendo Strikers and not Mario Strikers.
No, we can't be Smash Brothering everything.
I think Nintendo could get away with it.
I mean, they could, but they're not gonna. Only Sakurai is crazy enough to actually do that.
I mean, they got close to Mario Kart, right? It's going that way.
Kind of, I guess.
It's got Link in it.
For a little bit of DLC.
It's got the Inklings in it, hasn't it now?
Yes, but not. Are those going to be permanent? I wouldn't bet on it.
Oh, what, if Mario Kart
if they
9
make another
never
Mario
happened?
Kart, yes.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Daisy. Does she ever say that line in the film?
No, I think
There was no "Hi, I'm Daisy." He overhears her name right on the phone, and that was
Yeah, that's right.
and the bombs are tiny, and everyone's scared of them, and they don't seem to do that much damage. So that's weird.
Super tiny, and they're wearing Reeboks for some reason.
Yeah,
the best product placement.
Which is bizarre,
the
but they're
product
not
placement
wearing
with that
Reeboks.
film
Is that-
was odd all over the board, really.
Yeah. What else was in there? You were pointing out the Motorola.
There was a Motorola thing in one of the cars. Yes, they had
in the police
cars.
cop car. Electric cars.
Yeah,
Cop cars.
because there's no fossil fuels. Because they're not
with
dinosaurs didn't fossilize.
So, however, they're making electricity, but
Yeah, true.
and with trolley bus style pickups, right?
Yeah,
coming off the roofs.
They charge
Roofs.
off the bumper cars.
Bumper car style, yeah.
And have sparks everywhere, and it's seemingly a subset of them have no brakes. That wasn't
Yeah,
quite clear, was it? And at some point they
doing
had
something
brakes. Like some had brakes and some didn't. So everyone just used the other cars to stop. It's supposed to be inconvenient if you're at the front.
What a weird film.
Very strange. Glad we watched it again though, because it is stupid.
Well, I'm glad I said. I mean, now at least I know.
Yep.
I've avoided it this far, but now I understand. Yeah. Now that this current crop of not necessarily terrible video game movies for kids, like Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep. Somewhat acceptable films.
Yeah, contrast to. I wonder if it will continue. But then you've still got shit like Uncharted.
Which I probably will watch if it comes out on a service without a huge price tag. Actually, without any price tag.
That looks pretty mediocre, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that's not that was as a franchise, as a brand or whatever. That was never going to be a particularly interesting film. It's just like the Tomb Raider films. It's basically just it's Indiana Jones, but not Indiana Jones, and not as good.
Yeah,
I mean, that last Tomb Raider film was all right. I mean, I think you'd struggle to call it bad. I wouldn't say it's hugely interesting because it falls into exactly what you just described. It's kind of like an indie, but with some hindsight, I suppose, that filmmaking got a bit better since Indiana Jones.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean, Indiana Jones is meant to be a homage to 1930s adventure serial type things, isn't it? So
yeah, it's so strangely paced if you watch them now. And they're strange films. Maybe less so.
They are quite odd. Yeah, the second one is really weird.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a shame that you can't. Surely, someone can make a good indie style adventure film now without it having to be Indiana Jones, because you can't make a good Indiana Jones now, even though they're trying again, because you need Harrison Ford and he's too old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the problem is that there's no avenue to adjust that theme, because even Tomb Raider is basically the same idea of and Uncharted is going into ancient ruins and exploring them, but you can't really modernize that. There's not really
Right, because they're still ancient.
Yeah, it's still just the same ancient, and also you're then like running out of places to go, which was sort
Eventually,
of the Tomb Raider and Uncharted problem, where it's like we've done every ancient conspiracy in Uncharted, we've done every tomb in Tomb Raider.
That's kind of why
Some of them probably overlapped, right? Like, what's the one Uncharted 2 is like
Shangri-La.
What's it called? Shangri-La, yeah, Shambhala. And then it did pirates and it started with the Drake, right? Hence Drake, right? Drake's.
Yeah. But this was the thing, they moved
Drake.
And the first two games, don't forget, had a fantastical element to them, and then 3 and 4 they moved away from that completely.
Yeah, that's true. Because there's
everything in 3 turned out to be drugs,
in 2, right? Yeah, I mean that's cool. I kind of prefer that. I thought it was a bit silly in 2 when it went supernatural at the end, but that's what happens in Indiana Jones, right? It is supernatural, like in places. I mean, right?
Yeah, because the Ark of the Covenant melts everyone.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And then that gets continued on with the Holy Grail, and everything.
With the weird sacrifice in the second one, right? And the sort of undead people, sort of.
I mean, that might have been drugs or whatever.
But I guess it could have been.
Because it is although that wasn't voodoo, was it? Because voodoo is Haitian, right? And that was like Indian type place. So different, culture being misrepresented. But yeah. But there must be a way to make those kind of adventure films. But you're right, Zach. Like, you just can't update it. Maybe, I don't know. But I feel like Uncharted, the games do a decent job.
Did a pretty good job. Yeah.
Yeah. But translating that to film is like, well, I don't know. Why bother? But there's got to be a way to make an adventure of that thing work.
That was the other film we didn't watch, National Treasure.
National Treasure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know what the tone of those films is. I only know because I haven't seen
that film.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, that it's done.
Because National Treasure Disneyfies the original indie, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's even less
threatening.
Yeah.
Even though it's in a modern setting where like guns and shit are going on.
I mean, guns and stuff are going on in indie too.
Well, sometimes.
What about The Mummy? How does that sort of fit in with these sorts of things?
Yeah, The Mummy sort of counts.
I mean, that is another Indiana Jones spin, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
To a lesser extent,
wacky horror, kind of. Not horror, but kind of.
Yeah, The Mummy holds up. Actually, The Mummy's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's self-aware and stuff. Which is cool.
Absolutely. I've always enjoyed The Mummy. It's fine. I might prefer it to the indie films to some degree. I know it's not as classic as those, but I think you could derive more enjoyment from it, potentially. I was just trying to think. There was that. Disney Jungle Cruise that came out last year, or was it early this year? Something like that. That's pretty close to that feel.
What is that? So. I guess that's based on a theme park ride, right? But I'm just thinking because I'm just thinking it's The Rock. I'm just thinking of those Jumanji films or whatever. But
yeah.
How is it? Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not as good as those.
Right.
And out of those 2 new Jumanji films, you can watch the first and probably skip the second. The second is still all right, but it's not a patch on the first.
I've only seen the first. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the gimmick of them being in the different bodies and stuff.
Yeah,
that was cool.
But that's what I mean. That kind of wore out its welcome by the time the second film came around.
One film and that's it.
Yeah, because they didn't change it. I mean, they swapped bodies, like the different people in different bodies, and it's like that's not enough.
No, to make a whole new film sequel. Yeah,
even if it did have Awkwafina in it for a bit.
Oh, I love Awkwafina. I've just watched her sitcom thing, Nora from Queens it's on iPlayer. It was good.
Good.
Good. Recommended.
I mean, I finished.
But especially her grandma character, whoever that actress is amazing.
Yeah, she's good.
Old Chinese grandma.
She just spent a chunk. That's spoilers, but yeah, I was about to say she does. There's some similarities then with Jumanji too. So she's done that before.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was gonna say I'd like keeping on the televisual front. I finally got around to finishing Arcane. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, but like when I watched the last episode, I was sat on my own, and I in a house with nobody in it other than the cat, and I shouted at the TV screen, "You can't end there!"
That is a good sign if it's hooked you that much.
Oh, it's such an ending. Like I get why they did it, why it is. I totally understand why it ends where it ends. But oh my god, it's simultaneously the worst cliffhanger in the world. It's like, oh god, what? Like now I need to know what's happening next. I need to know, and it's going to be ages till it comes back. Oh, Arcane's real good. I still don't know anything about League of Legends.
Don't need to.
Well, except I suppose that like several of the main characters are actually characters in League of Legends. That's all I know.
Are they like playable?
Yeah.
Or
playable heroes or whatever. Champions? Are they called champions in LoL? I can't remember their terms.
Yeah. And that's on Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix. It's real good.
Yeah, check it out.
I even enjoy the Imagine Dragons theme song. Not your biggest Imagine Dragons fan over here, but that theme tune is dope.
Did I say in the podcast that I enjoyed the Nicolas Cage movie about where he plays himself?
Oh, no. You haven't been around since that one.
Definitely check that out, yeah. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
That's a great name.
I mean, I thought it could have been a gimmick and not work, but he's such a charismatic performer, and the script was decent. But I think the main thing that made it for me was it's got Pedro Pascal, who is actually really funny and it's almost like a double act for quite a lot of the film. Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. So I recommend it on that basis.
Fantastic. And we did watch Gone in 60 Seconds, get a little bit of the Cage fix.
Yeah. That was great. I really enjoyed Gone in 60 Seconds. Never seen that before.
Oh, you hadn't? Oh.
No,
right, yeah.
It was awesome. It was really good.
Yeah, that's a decent film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the more you think about it, the more paper thin it becomes, but you kind of don't
totally
care at the time.
Thin. No, and it was so briskly edited and just moved along at such a clip. Yeah.
Like they really gave themselves too much time in the plot, where it's like you've got 24 hours or whatever to get all these cars, but then that only happens in like the last 5 minutes of the film is all the car getting, and then the rest of the time you'd think would be all the setup, but then it's not even that really.
No, they cut a lot of that out, probably sensibly, right? Because it's like not many of the cars actually require a complex setup. It's just like
but that's what I mean. They gave themselves a lot of opportunities to have more stuff in that movie, but then just kind of didn't.
But it didn't, yeah.
Which was fine.
It's fine, yeah. They left a few of the and they wanted a half-hour car chase at the end.
Yeah, I guess. Except even that wasn't really much going on in that car chase either, really.
I mean, car chase is car. That's all that happens in a car chase.
No, but I mean, it was like... if you compare it to, I don't know, Fast and Furious, there's not much happening in that car chase. He just drives around a bit, trying to evade some police cars for a while, and hides in the alley for a moment, and then there's a bit of a ramp.
That's kind of all car chases were back then.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what I mean. It's like it's an old school car chase.
Yeah.
It's not the modern ridiculous car chase.
But you can sort of see the DNA in it, right? Like the
That's true.
The way that was shot and the way it was done is pretty similar to how Fast and Furious feels.
You got to do some random cuts to looking at feet on pedals and
gear
shifting.
And always be accelerating.
Yep.
Like always have the engine going up. What gear are we in? Like 12. Good times.
Yeah.
we talk about less good times? Should we talk about gaming news?
Let's talk about gaming news.
Much less good news this week.
News. What's going on?
Right. Let's launch with the biggie, shall we? Or
one of them,
arguably biggie. Yeah. Square Enix are. I just can't remember. Normally, I was going to try and do some sort of spiel around it and then like end my sentence of what's going on. I'm not quite sure how to do that this time. Square Enix are selling a whole load of studios.
Well, basically, I mean, like, if you look at it one way, you could say that they've decided that all these studios that don't make them enough money they're going to get rid of them. Except that's not what's going on at all.
Yeah, there are so many ways you could look at this. Right, so the studios that they're getting rid of are Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal.
What?
So
big ones.
Big studios.
So basically, all of the Western IPs.
Yeah.
Is basically what
this is the other part of this problem. Like for years now, like whenever Tomb Raider came out, whenever the Deus Ex games came out, and most recently, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they have publicly expressed that they were not happy with how these games sold. And these games sold big for the industry, right? These are not like underperforming games that, like, or as I think the rest of the industry sees it. Like, they're quite popular games. They do well. But Square have never seemed to acknowledge that. And so that's weird. And it's like, and yet they always look at Final Fantasy pretty favorably. So there's an element of, like, I don't know, how do you read into this? It's like, does Final Fantasy really just make that sort of money that Square are really interested in? Or are they kind of Western developer racist in some way? Like, racist is possibly a strong word, but territorialist or something. Like, they just don't like working with Western developers anymore, so they're doubling down on Japanese efforts. Because there is a follow-on from that. Like, they are opening more Japanese studios. They've sold off all these Western studios, and they've said they're going to open a whole load of Japanese studios.
They've also said they're going to spend a lot of the money on NFTs.
NFTs, yeah. Which,
you know, that's just, this is basically just Square's equivalent of Pachinko, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they're pulling a Konami on us.
You've got to have the Japanese developers do one random dumb side gig that doesn't make any sense outside of Japan, except NFTs like don't even make sense in Japan. I don't think Japan are particularly more fans of NFTs than anywhere else in the world.
No, I don't think they're inherently. Yeah, I don't know if there's an inherent bias towards or for or against Japan and NFTs, but and for the love of God, please let's hope that Sega's Super Game project has nothing to do with NFTs after all. While we're on this. But it's just such a weird time because there are so many news reports you'll read over the last week or so that are saying the NFT market is crashing.
Yes, I mean, that was the funniest part about this whole announcement is like Square announced this thing and then basically the next news headline in any website would be NFTs are down 95%.
Yeah, it's such a huge crash, right? And it's like, there's a bit of me that's like, oh, thank God for that. And my small amount of Bitcoin assets are like, oh, God, this is terrible. But I don't have much. I dabble. But NFTs are stupid. So the hell with it. So it is quite funny in that respect. But like, at least in some ways, like they only said they're going to be looking at it. So they haven't actually
it's like
probably done anything on blockchain.
Basically just have a big pile of money at the moment to do something with.
Exactly. But presumably it's not what they had originally planned, or maybe it will have to be because that's probably what they've told investors.
Yeah, I mean, that is the slightly weird part about it, is like, if you think about it from the like shareholders' perspective or whatever, it's like, what did they get told about this? It's like, we've been telling these shareholders repeatedly over the years that these games haven't been selling well enough, so obviously we can just get rid of the studios consequence-free, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. But surely some of the shareholders would know that that's not the case, that those games actually sold perfectly fine and Square Enix just has weird expectations.
Unless Square really don't have many Western investors.
Well, yeah, I guess.
And that they can somewhat easily pull the wool over their eyes. I don't want to say all investors are stupid people. Because I can't...
Or don't know about the actual business that they've invested in. They're only interested in business.
Yeah, I can't possibly believe that's true, right? You see enough cases, especially like, I don't know, I've been watching that Netflix thing, right? The Formula One documentary. And the people that tend to go into that are people that love motor racing, right? They are investors, they're business people, but they also love motor racing and know how it works. And they know that money is king in F1. So they get involved for the passion of it. And I hope that there's a good portion of that in games, but also games are such a huge industry, right? There must be some people that just be like, yeah, games are doing good, I'll put money in.
Yeah.
Or NFTs, they're big right now, put money in that. So anyway, if we want to talk IPs, they went with the studios.
Yes, which is also kind of the other weird thing about this sale is they just sold the whole things.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like they didn't just sell the IPs; they didn't just sell the studios.
This is where it's
down the studios. It was like the whole thing just goes.
Yeah,
the whole chunk.
This is where it's less like Konami, right? Because Konami hold on to those IPs and like don't let them out of their sight.
But they need them to make their pachinkos with.
Yeah, that's why you end up with erotic action Castlevania pachinko.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a joke. So Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Legacy of Kain, Thief, and pretty much anything these studios have ever made are now owned by the Embracer Group, because Embracer snapped them up.
Who are they?
They're some mysterious like conglomerate. They're a little bit like Tencent, I guess.
Yeah,
there's some big umbrella group that are just slowly buying up like a huge number of players in the video game landscape. They've been around. They've been, I guess, making headlines for about a year now. Occasionally popping up. They quietly own a huge chunk of the industry.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I suppose, if they experience with that stuff, then it's not a bad place for all those studios and IPs to go.
Or if it is more like a Tencent kind of situation where like the studios just run independently, basically. You just have this big financial backing, but they don't really manage them in any direct way.
Yeah, they must have some guidance. But,
sure.
Yeah. Like, presumably, like, Square got hold of the Marvel license for Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and said, well, you guys have got time coming up after this project. You're on a Marvel game next. Start thinking about it. They probably have that level of control. And presumably they must have, because they're a publisher, they must have certain guidelines. Like, here, you can have this much money and you've got this much time, go.
Yeah.
That's what a publisher does. I don't know. Interesting. It's good in a way that, hey, these franchises that probably haven't been treated all that well by Square, well, they kind of have. That's the other thing. Like, these are not bad games, really.
No.
Like, the 3 Tomb Raider games in recent were good. Those last 2 Deus Exes pretty decent, right?
Yeah. Especially the Human Revolution, yeah.
I don't really know about Thief, which is also part of this, which we saw in the X-Bone generation. There was a Thief game. Remember that, anyone? I've got a copy and I never played it, but
my brother did the website for it.
Oh, right.
Because he was working for Square.
Oh, yeah. I remember now.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. So anyway, it's interesting. Maybe we'll see some old IPs turn up. That's what everyone hopes, right? When there's like a big acquisition like this or a change, and it's like, are those studios interested, or is it going to open them up to perhaps reuse some of their old IPs in some interesting way?
Does happen, doesn't it? So that's cool.
Happen. Yeah.
It's probably better than if they were still in Square.
And maybe Embracer, like, or someone at Embracer or whatever company they really are, or we can, like, depending on how the ownership of the deal ends up working, like, maybe they'll be able to farm those IPs off to other studios, not necessarily those ones that are gone with the sale.
That's true,
we should point out this is a going to buy. Like, the sale hasn't actually happened yet. It's a bit like the Activision.
Everything is a going to buy.
Yeah, it's like it's not closed yet, but it's begun.
How is that Activision Microsoft thing going?
I don't know. It's been quiet, so I assume it's still under.
Nothing really has happened.
I assume it's still under review. Like the Sony and Bungie acquisition is weirdly under review.
Yeah.
I think everyone thought that was just going to be an open and shut case, but it's like, no, that's been That's being scrutinized.
Interesting. It's a lot smaller, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's just some boundary they cross, and it's just like, no, we've got to look at this. It's crossed some sort of threshold, so we're obliged to look at it.
Or maybe they're just sort of looking at that because of the Microsoft thing, where it's just like, because it was clearly a response. So they were like, oh, if Sony's doing this in response to what Microsoft did, we should probably look at that as well, just to make sure.
I need to look this up, actually. Like, this just reminded me, like, totally different thing. You know, we were talking about video game movies.
Yeah.
And there is supposedly some Last of Us project coming, right? That's still going ahead.
Right.
But speaking, like, that's the chain reaction in my brain has led to me. I don't know if this was a joke or not, but someone tweeted something about Last of Us remake. Like, they remastered it. It came out on PS3, it was remastered for PS4, and they're going to now do a ground-up remake of it for PS5.
That sounds unlikely.
Yeah. That must have been a joke.
That can't be real. I mean, some studios would do that, but not Naughty Dog, I don't think.
No, it seems pretty unlikely. Or maybe they'll give it to, like, Blue Byte.
Yeah. Yeah.
We might have, this might be come in the missed news category. Apparently, I've just done a quick Google. Like, in January 6th, it's like Jason Schreier, you know, Kotaku's old, like, super sleuth who now works for Bloomberg. Apparently managed to, like, internal sources confirm this is a thing. So yeah, not officially confirmed, but a lot of internal talks about that. Anywho, yeah. Speaking of things that may or may not come out, Ubisoft are delaying a couple of games and announcing release dates for others. So Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is no longer coming out this year. I don't know if they had they. I thought they'd said this year for that because it was in our fantasy league.
Was it?
Yeah, I think someone's got it on one of their lists.
Because the only thing that I noticed in our fantasy league that they changed was not any of Ubisoft ones. It's the one we're going to talk about in a minute.
Son of a bitch, yes. So I think Mario Bros. Rabbids, I can never say that properly, has slipped. Their Avatar game is coming out before April next year.
Which is, I mean, that one, I don't think had even much of a trailer for it, so it probably didn't have a date.
I think they have trailed it like last year E3
except
time,
when they did trail it, it was just like,
here's some pictures of Pandora.
Well, yeah, but it seemed like it was quite far along before coming out of nowhere.
Right.
Because they hadn't said anything around it before that. Just like suddenly an Avatar game.
But then the film's coming out like this Christmas, isn't it?
I mean, co-marketing. And I think that was maybe why people assumed it was going to come out this year. For marketing purposes.
Sure. But the other I guess the most interesting part of this is that they said Skull and Bones is going to be coming out before April next year. And this was their let's rip the pirates, the seafaring stuff out of Assassin's Creed and try and make a multiplayer game out of it. That was put on hold indefinitely.
Oh yeah,
a number of years ago.
Yeah,
but apparently that's coming out.
Interesting.
They've been working on it again at some point.
How much more work could they have had to do, really?
Presumably it needs a bit of a graphics update, given how much time it's been.
I don't know if it's been that long that it would be that different, really. And it was all about the water tech, which was already better than it could have been at the time. Really.
Well, it depends. I wonder what they're targeting, right? Is with that game, because it was always designed as a multiplayer focused thing, right?
It would just be like a For Honor but with boats.
Yeah. So in that respect, do you think it will launch as a free to play, like
maybe, or just a normally priced game?
But then Ubisoft haven't really had much luck with free to play, right? You still have to buy a Siege license, like you still have to buy Siege, I think.
Sure. But I mean, it's just like Counter-Strike, right?
Yeah, that's true actually. And Hyperscape was their last free-to-play game that failed miserably.
Yes, I don't imagine that game is going to be, big or any bigger than like For Honor. It's the same concept. It's just a small multiplayer game with interesting-ish mechanics. is the idea.
Mm.
Because that seems to have worked for them in the past to some extent.
But it's back. Out of nowhere. It would have been wild if they'd shadow dropped that. Just kept quiet. Talk about more delays. Bethesda have delayed Redfall and Starfield out of 2022. So even though they committed to that hard November 11th date,
the date that was in the trailer very specifically shown on a screen,
yeah.
in a very unambiguous way. It wasn't even like, here's some numbers that just happen to mean a date.
Yeah. No, that's officially slipped, and is no longer a 2022 release. I don't think they've said when in 2023 that's planning to come out, but it's definitely not this year anymore. Damn it! I was hoping that was going to be one of my heavy hitters in the Fantasy League.
I don't think that. Yeah, well, I get that's in the Fantasy League context. That one seemed like it could have gone either way because it's a Bethesda. It's a Bethesda game. It could be like the standard 90, or it could be like a 70. One of those two options.
It's another little knock that makes. Similar to how, I guess, 2020 was for Microsoft, and that there wasn't much in the way of first-party titles in 2020, and then 2021 happened, and we got Halo Infinite and Forza, and a few things all came out at once. Starfield not coming out this year is kind of a pain point, because I don't know if Microsoft has anything big slated to come out this year. Anymore,
but like no one does at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's been delayed.
Well, Sony's still got like God of War,
yeah,
coming out pretty soon, and they've already had Horizon, right? Sony have already put out a couple of big hitters. Yeah. Oh, and Gran Turismo. It's a big year for Sony, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's kind of already happened.
Hmm.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing. Not that I probably would have played stuff. I don't know. Starfield might have been good, but I probably
it's the Bethesda risk.
Yeah, there's a big. What is that game still hanging over it?
Well, the most important question: what engine is it on? Because that'll tell you a lot.
Probably will. Let's talk about FIFA. Like we talked about this last time with Kippers that EA were rumored to be dropping their deal with FIFA. So meaning they can no longer use the FIFA name because what is it? The FIFA licensing fee had risen to, was it $500 million for a 4-year license? Something like that. Some ridiculously large number.
But it's still like nothing compared to how much money FIFA makes EA.
Do you reckon? Like, I don't know, $500 million's a lot, even in game sales.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. And you don't know, I suppose, you don't know how much the license matters to the sales of FIFA, and we're about to find out, I suppose.
Yeah, we're absolutely about to find out. And it's been, because we know what the new name is, it's been confirmed. It's now going to be EA Sports Football Club.
As we discussed, yeah.
As correctly rumoured, yeah.
Now confirmed. I think that'll probably work.
It's fine. Like, I think it's a bad name. Like, but then I don't really know what else they could have done.
Yeah, what would you have called it?
EA Sports Football.
Yeah,
just call it football.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, probably.
Or go the other way and call it like EA Sports The Beautiful Game.
Oh wow! Yeah, oh, there's probably a mode called The Beautiful Game in it somewhere. Sure. Like,
or you could make that the new big mode.
It'll be the new story mode,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
The Beautiful Game, following the life of Pele.
Probably.
See, they needed to make it like an acronym that you could pronounce like FIFA. Yeah, but if EAFC, if that you could say it like FIFA or NATO or something.
Well,
like that,
you know what it does.
You can't.
You know how it does read EA Sports Football Club. It's easefuck.
Easefuck.
No one remembers the sports part of that.
Basically, what EA have done is they've done a deal with Robco, and they're bringing out Easy Fucker, the game. Easy, mate, easy.
And then, according to the press release, FIFA seems to think they are going to still have a FIFA game made by who exactly?
Yeah, and they were labelling that. FIFA 23 is going to be a thing.
Well,
still.
FIFA 23 is still going to be a thing because that's.
Oh, is that what? EA is still
going
licensed
to release that.
Okay,
one.
EA is still licensed to do 23. Okay. Yeah, but then 24 and 25, and it's like that's a quick turnaround for a new studio to pick it up. Like,
assuming they don't ridiculously go to like Pro Evo and give them the FIFA license.
They can't possibly go to PES, right? Like, because eFootball is in such a... It's still in a mess, right? Like, they didn't actually... Did they abandon that completely? Like, no one talks about eFootball. And it was such a disaster at launch anyway, that it's like, why would you? Why would you even consider it now?
But no one else makes sports games that are close enough to football to just give the football license to inside a year.
Yeah. Exactly. The nearest sports company is 2K.
Yeah.
Thanks to basketball and... Did they do a hockey game? No, I'm not. I'm sure they did at one point.
Yeah, they did at one point.
But yeah, you're still putting out NHL.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like an unlicensed hockey game. I don't know.
I mean, that is the actual question. Is just like, do people really care about the FIFA license? And the NFL license kind of more important.
Mm. Yeah, and they've still got that. They've still got Madden, right?
Yeah.
Well,
actually, kind of.
Actually, have they said they're gonna? Is it still going to be called Madden? I assume it is. I assume they've still got some licensing deal that will last for a bit until they have to renegotiate with the Madden estate.
Yeah.
Now that he did, that's weird times. Weird times to the point where it made mainstream news.
Well, in the UK, yes, it would do.
Yeah, the BBC. The BBC noted it and showed footage of FIFA 96 from the Mega Drive, I think.
Okay.
What was that? Not the first FIFA game, but
it was one of the early ones, I think. So it's one of those early Mega Drive, like when it was like isometric and slightly janky looking. Bit jank. And the other thing that happened, I guess, in the last 2 weeks, in the last few days, in fact, Nintendo did an Indie World presentation, of which there's probably only two things of interest here. I don't know. I was pretty underwhelmed by it. Like,
it's always the same with Indie World.
I don't know, sometimes
calling it a Nintendo presentation might even be going too far.
Yeah,
it's just it's a trailer reel from random indie companies.
Well, it's Nintendo supporting releases on Switch that aren't Nintendo affiliated. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes there's something interesting, or maybe a couple of things that you didn't really know existed. Like, was this how we got introduced to things like Skatebird? No, I think no, that was Xbox, wasn't it?
Bird was something else.
Maybe Kiwi. Oh no, that might have been Xbox as well. I really can't remember. But I don't know. I feel like there's a couple of things that may come out of here. Like as we were saying before the podcast began, I can't believe Ooblets isn't out yet. I feel like that game has been advertised, possibly by Nintendo, for like a decade now.
Well, and also it had that whole controversy thing ages ago as well, which could well have killed it, but didn't. Apparently.
But didn't. It's still about. If you want a farming / Pokemon game, there you go. This is the crossover for you.
I think by now there's probably actually better ones of those as well.
Maybe. Wasn't there that another Nintendo, wasn't there, that seemed to do the rounds on Nintendo for a while? Was it where you played like a little onion looking character or something and you made gardens in a sort of pixely sort of way? Oh, I can't remember what it was called now. Anywho, but that's not the one that seems to have caught everyone's eye and my own. The developers of Gato Roboto, that's it, not Gato Roboto, are making what looks like a side-scrolling run and gun called Gunbrella that's due out next year, and it looks pretty cool because it's sort of Gunbrella, yeah, where you're literally like, I don't know. Have you seen Kingsman?
Yeah, the original one.
Where like one of the weapons is like an umbrella that is a gun, but you can open it as a shield.
Oh yeah.
It's got that basically. Your character has that. You've got a gunbrella. And you're shooting people with it. And it looks pretty cool. And that's kind of all there really is to say about that. It's a 2D run and gun that looks good with a gunbrella. And also Gunbrella's a great name.
Yeah, fits together nicely. It's a portmanteau, those two words.
Not due out this year, unfortunately. Due out next year. And that's all I got for news. Unless there's some mystery news I have missed.
I don't think so.
We've done the Nintendo stuff. Yeah. No, I think that's about it. There was that leaked build of Duke Nukem Forever from the back in the 90s, but I don't know. Jeff Gersman said, like, don't bother, basically.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much true of any Duke Nukem property.
I think at the time that when Duke Nukem Forever finally came out, everyone was saying that they should just release all those extra builds as like bonus content.
Yeah, definitely.
Just put them on the disc.
What, to make the package feel less bad?
Yeah, exactly. Just give you more value. Be like, look at all the weird old versions of this game, and then look at the current weird version of this game.
So is this the one that was built on because it was built on Quake 2 at one point?
I think it got re-engined, so I think it is Unreal 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the build that's been released anyway. But it was originally going to be Quake 2 engine, wasn't it? Yeah. On the first screenshot, I remember was
like a canyon with a car in it.
Yeah, like a black Humvee or something in a canyon. Yeah. But yeah, this version is the later. I do remember them re-platforming it. Yeah, and there being a bunch of videos and screenshots from the new version. I think that's the version that this is. Yeah.
Presumably re-platformed many, many times. I forget what it eventually launched on. CryEngine. I don't know.
Yeah, that's news then.
That is going to do it for news.
It's time for what you've been playing.
Oh, I just remembered one little detail about that Square thing. Supposedly, one of the studios in that Square thing had been tapped to work on the new Perfect Dark game in a sort of cross-publisher deal. Apparently, that deal was okay.
That is such a mystery, that Perfect Dark game. That was such a weird trailer for it.
Let's look forward to June, where we'll hear more at the Microsoft and Bethesda showcase, presumably.
Let's hope so.
It's been 2 years ago that they announced that now? It's been a while. And not a peep since.
Peepless.
We are peepless. Sans peep.
We haven't got any peeps, those weird American, sugar treat things.
Wait, what?
That are like peeps?
How are they?
No, are they marshmallows?
Yeah, they're basically
like little bird things, aren't they? Like weird little birds.
They're pretty gross. I've had them before.
You've had peeps?
They're bad marshmallows, basically.
Okay.
They're bad marshmallows, and they're also coated in sugar, except it's fake sugar.
Fake what?
That if you imagine, say,
like an M&M shell, or
no, it's what is that thing called? Not a gumdrop. Well, I guess it's like a gumdrop. That fake sugar that they put on relatively hard jelly.
Oh, right. That sort of looks very crystalline looking, but large crystalline.
Well, or sometimes smaller.
You think like a fruit pastel kind of thing.
Yeah, like a fruit pastel. That's probably closer. It's like that on the outside of the marshmallow. They're pretty gross. But then again, it's also American candy, so, it's already pretty gross by default because of what they make it out of.
That does sound pretty gross. I mean, I don't mind a marshmallow, but I usually only eat one, maybe two.
I'll eat a whole bag of marshmallows. No problem.
I mean, I used to be able to do that. There's something about them now where I'm just not into it these days.
But bad marshmallows are bad. That's why, the quality of marshmallows is actually widely varied. You'd be surprised. You would have thought a marshmallow could be that complicated, but
maybe I need my eyes opening to the world of marshmallows. Is this like how whiskey drinkers talk about whiskies? I don't think
it's quite that complicated.
But there are gradings of marshmallow.
Yeah.
It's just like the way I think about pizza. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I don't think anything's like the way you think about pizza.
No one will know. I'll take it
Rob's deep, in-depth pizza knowledge.
I'll take it to my grave. The truth is too shocking.
You bite into a pizza and you instantly know exactly what the ingredients are. It's like that fucking JoJo meme with the spaghetti.
Oh, I don't know this one. We were just talking about it the other day, actually. Like, my knowledge of modern memes is terrible.
Well, no, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
I call it a meme, but I think it's more or less just a thing that happens in JoJo.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the context, but like, there's a plate of spaghetti and meatballs at some point, and in order to discover what was wrong with it, because I don't know what was wrong with it, why this was a thing that you do, he basically just punches it and it disassembles itself into its constituent parts, and then he analyzes it in
the air.
Yeah, in midair, in like this stupid sequence where like the tomatoes reassemble, and he's like, oh, it was made of these ingredients.
Oh man, do I have to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I mean, that is, very on brand, I guess. From what we understand of that show, which is not much.
I keep every now and then I hear a little snippet from or something that's from JoJo, and a bit of my brain just goes, I should probably watch this. Right? It's on Netflix. I haven't got an excuse.
Yes, probably that is a good reason to just watch it at some point. Anyway, memes, games,
memes and games. They share a phenome or two.
They do. It's true.
The ums part, especially.
That is one of them.
So what games have been being played? This is the question. Zach, what were you doing when you should have been watching Eurovision?
Well, I mean, luckily we can get through my shit pretty quick because I haven't been playing anything particularly new or interesting. What I was playing when Eurovision was on was actually just Derg, but that's the one thing I do want to talk about. But the other two things that I played, which I don't really want to talk about because I guess there's not anything new to say about them. So I played through Forager again.
Okay.
And I played the first, third of Terraria again.
Huh.
I've just been going through old games at the moment, I guess, after surviving Mars as well.
Some throwbacks.
Yeah. I mean, Forager is easy to get through in just, one sitting, basically. Probably a bit longer than one sitting in reality, but... And then Terraria is just one day I might actually finish that game, but I'm not going to because I keep starting it again. Because goddamn, that game has a lot of fucking content. And they're still updating it, even though every time it was this is the last update. Nope. There's still another patch coming quite soon, apparently.
Oh, speaking of patches, I saw they patched Redout, of all things, recently. And it's I thought Redout 2 was supposed to be on the way. Unless this is an advert in Redout 1.
Yes. I should put in the little highlight.
I should probably look to see what that is. Do carry on.
But then, those are the games that I spent a lot of time on, but the only thing I really wanted to talk about was more Derg, because now that I've actually had a chance to play more of the Season 2, try out all of the new weapons that I could only speculate about last time, and determine which ones are actually good and not. Because, the gunner's, railgun pistol is, as far as I can tell, very generic. Maybe I just haven't found the right overclock for it or whatever. To find its actual use, because it seems like these weapons, I mean, I guess it's sort of the case for all the weapons that there's usually one or two of the overclocks that make it actually functional. The unoverclocked versions of these weapons are always so generic, and that applies to all of the weapons. But then you can get that one overclock that is now it's viable. Now it's an actually useful weapon.
Huh.
Now it has some purpose, and I also that's why I don't think I've necessarily fully found the purpose of the gunner railgun pistol. And then the engineer's big laser beam thing, that's probably the closest to being a good weapon by itself. It's just because all of the engineer's secondaries are just the big damage weapons in his kit.
Something massive that you don't use very often.
Yeah, so that still fills that role more or less by itself. So I haven't necessarily felt the need for an overclock on that one. And then you got the Scout's crossbow, which is the one I've used the least, but that's just
It's another ranged weapon.
Well, yeah, and the overclocks for that are more different options for the special bolts, because you can get I think you can get poison and electricity by default, and I've already found overclocks for fire and ice.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of a bit of a disappointment in terms of these overclocks doing the exact. These two are the exact same. It's just one is fire and one is ice.
Yeah,
it's kind of lazy.
I mean, what's the deal with the special? Is it just what it fires? Is that what the special bolts are?
Yeah, you just have your default regular bolt, and then you can.
Oh, so there is a toggle.
Somehow. Yeah, you can just hit R to switch it to the special bolt.
Oh, I see.
And the one I used the brief time where I did get to use that crossbow was like the pheromone bolt.
Because I thought that might make sense for the crossbow on its own, right? Like this is why the crossbow exists, is because it's elemental.
Yeah, I mean that is what those special bolts are for. It's just that it's a choice in the upgrade tree. Because I don't think you can choose not to have special bolts, because like in the tiers, I think one of the tiers is the choice of special bolts, but they're all there. So
this is just when you get special bolts.
This is just when you choose. I mean, technically, and this is a weird thing that I also want to mention, but technically you can choose to not have an upgrade on any of those slots because you can just turn them off.
Oh, can you? I didn't realize you could do that. I thought once you'd opted in, they're just on.
No, because you can switch them freely, but you can also just switch them off as well.
All right,
which I'll come back to in a minute. But like, so the last secondary weapon for the driller is the one that I think is like where the overclock is so. Well, no, actually, it's not even the overclock. Actually, now that I think about it, it's the actual base upgrade to the weapon. But there's one of the base upgrades for that weapon is so like massively overpowered compared to everything else in that weapon upgrade tree that it becomes the whole purpose of that weapon.
Okay.
So it's like the microwave gun. One of its upgrades is that
it makes it go ping like a microwave?
No, although the voice lines do mention that. It's
okay.
Like, why doesn't this go ping? Or whatever the guy says. But like, one of the upgrades to it is that if you're shooting at an enemy that's either on fire or frozen, it does the temperature shock damage, which is something you can do with any combo of temperatures with normal weapons. So if a driller has already set something on fire with a flamethrower and then another driller hits them with that cryo cannon instead.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Temperature shock damage is like, it's like lowers reduces the temperature differential and does like a ton of damage is how the temperature shock works. So it only works if they're fully on fire or fully frozen.
Right.
And then it like kicks them out of that status.
Hard cuts to the other side.
Well, it doesn't push them all the way usually.
Okay.
It's like halfway down of whatever they were.
Still something. There's still quite a movement.
Yeah, and then that's why it does the temperature shock damage. But because this upgrade on the microwave gun has that ability, it just becomes the whole purpose of that weapon, because you just combo with the actual driller's weapons.
That's kind of
so
cool.
You just set things on fire, flick to the wave cooker, shoot them with that until the temperature shock happens, then set them on fire again, then switch back. And it does so much damage!
So you're gonna, basically the wave cooker is like an anti-cooker.
Yeah,
totally.
Weirdly.
Yeah.
You would have thought it would work in both directions of making hot things cold and cold things hot, but it does.
A wave freezer.
But yeah, that one thing that makes it a combo with two of... Well, actually, there's also like a third option where you can make it combo with corrosive, so you can technically also make it work with the sludge pump as well.
Huh, okay.
So that basically sort of becomes the whole point of that weapon at that point.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool.
It is kind of cool, and it is...
And a sort of slightly fun dance to do, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of interesting mechanic. And it also sort of makes you consider the builds differently for the primaries as well. Like, because I had very rarely used the flamethrower because I just didn't think it was nearly as good as the cryo or the sludge bomb.
Well, I noticed you using it the other day when I joined in.
Well, that's because I was using the wave cooker.
Yeah,
and because I'd reconfigured that flamethrower to very specifically set people on fire as fast as possible.
Right. To get them to that state, then switch.
Yeah, then just do the combo, because it does so much fucking damage when you combo them.
No, that's neat. That seems a bit more thought through, perhaps, than the others.
Yeah, maybe. And the other thing that I found is, I was initially worried about the wave cooker, but like, it's because of how I play solo mostly. Because I usually use the like sidearms for the driller, because his main guns don't have any range. So you need the sidearm for picking things off at long range. And the wave cooker turns out can still do that. Because weirdly, you would think in this gun, which is supposedly rejecting a bunch of microwaves, you'd be hitting some like inverse square law bullshit, right? Where like
right.
it would be completely crap at any kind of range. But it doesn't. It's just like, it's basically just a cylinder that comes out of the end of the gun, and anything under that cylinder just takes the same amount of damage, regardless of how far away it is.
Wow, okay. A micro laser.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you can configure it with, like, it has wide angle or tight angle as one of the options. That's on the reload key, you can toggle it between thin and fat.
A waves. And it does, same effect? It doesn't drop off on fat mode?
No,
or?
it just hits a wider area.
Why would you not put that in?
Well, it's lower damage per second.
Oh, I see.
So,
okay. Less damage.
The rate of damage goes down, but it still hits everything. There's no
in
fall off.
Yeah. So you could use it again. So presumably, like, a very quick blast of that is going to get rid of, like, swarmers.
Yeah.
Just sort of go...
If you set it onto the wide mode, you can just, like, sweep across them and just eliminate everything.
That could be kind of fun.
Yes, that is one of its other options if you don't go for, like, the combo version of it, is to just make it, like, the clear... But the thing about that is, of course, as I initially surmised about it, is that the gunner's weapons are already for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could just go...
All the flamethrower and the cryo cannon basically already do that, so it kind of made it look pointless.
Sweepy things.
So, yeah. But then, so that leads on to the thing that I actually wanted to talk about, which is not really related to this patch even, but is just something about Derg that's cool that I wanted to mention on the podcast, is like the stupid... I've heard people refer to them as like, because they aren't idle animations, and they aren't... I mean, I guess they are sort of idle animations, except you trigger them.
Okay, right.
What did people call them? Like,
what, you mean like the salute?
No, well, I mean, yes, but no. But, I mean, like, the weapon twirling.
Oh, okay. They're like the reload. They're not a reload.
Yeah, not a reload.
Yeah, because you're already reloaded, so you push it again.
I remember, there's
a name, is there?
Yeah, there's a term for it. I'd forgotten what that is.
Showing off. Finesse.
Yeah. But anyway, those in Deep Rock, they're all kind of... Well, the thing
showboating.
Yes, showboating. Some of them are cool, and some of them are boring. And I think Rob, playing as the engineer, probably has all of the boring ones.
They're all just, like, flip it over.
Yeah,
right?
Just spin the gun.
Except for the breach cutter, which you can't do it with, and he just sort of lifts it a bit, and it's just like,
No, the breach cutter has you shove your finger into the laser beam, stupidly. The platform gun has the heft.
Oh, yeah, that's it. You're right.
The breach cutter is the one weird one in the engineer's kit.
Hmm.
But, like... So, yeah, the engineer kind of has all the boring ones. For some reason, the gunner has all the interesting ones.
Huh.
Like, with his new railgun pistol, you, like, open up the chamber and, like, pull the slug out and then let it magnetize back in. It's like,
what?
Which is a cool little animation.
That's quite satisfying. I want to do that for real.
Yeah.
Like, zip, zip.
But then, like... Clearly the best one, which is also best because it has like a secret one, is the gunner's like missile launcher. Because in the regular animation, you like reach into the loading mechanism, pull out one of the little rockets and go, which is just funny.
Okay. Yeah.
But then there's a secret version of that animation where if you have like less than 9 ammo left, so there's no rockets in the loading mechanism, they're all in the tubes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
When he reaches in, he like tries to grab it, there's nothing there, and then he like shakes his fist at it. Which is just really funny.
Oh, that's neat.
It's really dumb.
I wanted to play with a little rocket.
But then, so the weird thing
Does that cost you an ammo then?
No,
okay.
It just puts it back afterwards.
Okay.
But the weird thing about these like specialized animations that are triggered by hitting the reload key or whatever.
And the occasional voice line.
The occasional voice line that goes with them.
Just occasionally just shouts, "Sweet!"
is with these new weapons that several of them have toggle switches on the reload key to like change ammo or change the lens width or whatever.
Oh right, yeah. So presumably they don't have these.
Well, that's the thing. They do still have them. You just have to turn those upgrades off in the menu to be able to go to like default mode to be able to see the secret animation.
And then they have them. Huh.
Like even like the crossbow has like you twang the string, and then like the wave cooker has like little weird things that open up on it, and then there's even voice lines associated with it where he's like, "I can't believe they let me have this." It's just very, very weird. Where it's just like it's when you think about the rocket launcher, where there's like a special secret animation where you have low ammo. That's one thing, but then to make animations that are essentially no one's ever going to see, because why would you not ever? Why would you not have those upgrade slots? I mean, maybe new players that are unlocking it really early in the game.
Yeah, because you don't level up the gun, do you?
No.
It's like you'll already have character ranks by the time you get them. And you probably have quite a few character ranks by the time you get them.
Yeah, well, I mean, more than enough to unlock
to upgrade
the whole tree in one go. Assuming you have the minerals, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very weird situation of like they put all this work into a thing that most people are never actually going to see.
That they then mechanicked out.
Yeah.
That is strange. You kind of just want another button.
Yeah, exactly.
Some kind of gun fiddle.
Just hold the reload button to trigger the animations on ones that have the push to do something else or something.
Is this like the button where, like in Counter-Strike, where it's like view your gun?
Yeah, the look at your gun.
Look at your knife. Show off to the stream button, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Those animations are almost as good as weird reload animations. The Battlefield classics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely want the occasional trick reload, right?
Yes.
Oh man, I hope they do that. I hope they just throw one in in a later update. Just sneak them in and don't tell anyone.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be so good. Man, I love Dirk. Dirk's great.
Yep.
It's got the right attitude.
Yeah. And now Rob has maybe actually seen a nemesis for a minute.
I've seen a few of them now. We came across 2 in one mission.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Although
what's that?
They're the new bad guy.
The new big robot.
Okay.
They fly around playing creepy dwarf voice samples. Yeah. And like when you kill them, they're like, "Oh, it's getting dark," in dwarf voice, and it's like it's really kind of dark.
Whatever's going on with those goddamn robots.
Well, they've just sampled our data. Like presumably, like somewhere else on Hoxie's, they're killing dwarfs occasionally.
Well, I mean, all the rest of the supposed teams that Dirk has.
Yeah,
that you aren't. You are the one that lives.
You aren't. Yeah. Even when you fail, you live.
Well, yeah. I mean, that goes into the theorized lore of Deep Rock Galactic, where it's like, oh, the dwarves actually just clones. Those medical beds are actually just cloning pods, and or they're androids. They're robots all along, so that's why the robots can sound like dwarves.
I see. We haven't failed since the last patch, right? Where they added like that you come out in tabards or something.
No, the medical gowns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I didn't think it was going to be like this. I also haven't actually seen this. I just caught a glimpse of it when I was watching a stream of someone playing it. But I think that actually does persist into the mission. Like, if you die and then go into the
same
next mission, you just continue to wear the medical gown.
Oh, that's funny.
Either that or...
You need to like, wipe the failure off you by having a good mission.
Either that or it's a... unlock, like if you the first time you fail, you unlock it in the wardrobe.
And you can just wear it. No, I like the idea of it being like a mark of shame.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
So yeah, more Dirk. Got to get that season pass. It's definitely not any quicker.
It still seems like a bit of a grindy hole.
But I have been like, I've only just got through all of the new assignments for all of the new guns, so I've only just got to the point where I'm theoretically only grinding.
Right.
I haven't done this week's deep dive, I guess. That's the only thing I haven't done.
At least they made the celebration so it's like every character gets it this time, because that's all I want, really, from this list. Like,
what do you mean?
The one new celebration, because in the previous season, like the celebration was like you had to unlock it 4 times for each character, there's just one.
Not the loot bug one. The loot bug one was in the main tree. So
yes, that was fine. But the ones in the script trees, I think they had 4 different pickaxe throws that you had to get for each character, and now there's just one which unlocks it for all characters, and it's like that's okay. I'm gunning for that then.
Yeah, I don't think I've got that yet, or did I? I don't remember. I went straight down the middle of the tree to whatever was at the bottom, which I think is that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't remember it at all. And I've also, like, on one of my, out of a random loot crate or whatever in a mission, I got a new victory pose that I'd never seen before, which I thought I'd seen them all and just hadn't got them all on every character yet, but apparently not. There was another new one. Unless that had just been added in this
Yeah, maybe. I still don't have very many. They're quite rare, aren't they?
Yeah. But one of the last lost pack that I picked up said that I had all the pickaxe and armor colors. which I think I'd seen that message before, but then I was sure that I picked up another one after that and it had given me something again. So maybe that message was specifically for pickaxes and armor colors, and the other thing I got was a weapon framework.
Maybe.
Because weirdly, when they put the Season 1 stuff into the drop pool, if you didn't already earn it in Season 1, one of the things that also got put in the drop pool was the Season 1 weapon framework styles, but for the Season 2 weapons, because obviously those didn't exist in Season 1.
Right, of course. That's kind of cool. So, yeah.
So they actually went back. I mean, this, when you think about that whole system, it's going to become a hell of a problem for them over time. Every time they add a new weapon, they're just adding like another 4 layers of work to their whole scheme.
Surely that's the same with a lot of things. Like, right, if presumably Rocket League hit that same problem with some of the skins and things, like the universal skins.
But not many of Rocket League's skins are actually universal, really.
And I noticed on Rocket League Sideswipe, they actually tag the skins with universal,
right,
when they can be used on any car, as opposed to being car specific.
Because a lot of the ones that are technically universal in Rocket League don't unlock like that for sure. Like Huntress. It's like every car has Huntress, but they're all individual.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense because, like, well, in a way it makes sense, right? Because they tailor those to the car's shape.
Well, I mean,
or is it some of the non-universal ones are probably just like a texture they slap over?
Yeah, but you could imagine that Huntress could be programmatically made.
Yeah, but then someone's got to. That's another thing they've got to do whenever they make a new car. They've got to these are the Huntress lines.
It could just be meshed onto the polygon somehow.
Yeah, someone's got to do that work. It's like
I mean, it could be done automatically, but just by some algorithm that knows how it should interact with.
Yeah, I guess they could have generators. It's like, this is our car model. Well, let's generate a Huntress for it.
Yeah.
I guess, like, similar to what we were talking about, I suppose, with the new eyes and mouth for that car that, like, takes the aerial slot, and how we were theorizing, it's like, well, why doesn't... is this the first aerial, quote-unquote, they've introduced that only applies to this to a single car? And it's like, the answer is yes, that is the case. But, like, it would have been effort to go back and then find, like, mark where all the headlight points and where the mouth should go on every existing car that they just couldn't be asked to do, I guess.
Well, or didn't think it would actually look good or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that that's ever stopped them making random bullshit before, but, you know.
I mean, they totally should. They should just go and do that.
So that's the Derg situation. I'm thinking getting way too many goddamn bulk detonators lately. For some reason. They always seem to come in waves. I have long periods where there's none, and then there's just like every goddamn mission.
It takes so long to mine out the damn gold from the gold ones.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we had a driller class, that would be so bad.
Well, no, because the drills can't mine materials, remember? We talked about that very early on in Derg.
Weak.
Where the drills are specifically not for drilling. I mean, technically you could drill out all of the earth behind the sphere and
it just falls. Yeah, maybe that's the tactic.
But that would probably use more fuel than the drills carry. That's a lot of drilling. Of course, dealing with that situation in solo is much easier because you tell Bosco to do it and then run away and do other things.
Right.
He does have a weird, like, the Bosco mining command has like a limited area, like there's an invisible circle around it where he'll actually go to. So you do have to keep going back and be like, all right, do the next bit.
That should be a thing you can find in multiplayer. You know, in the same way that you can find the Betsy tank.
Right, just find a random extra Bosco.
Yeah. And then one player assumes control of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did kind of think about something similar to that once, where it's like, why not have it be an option,
or like a mini Bosco, like maybe not as powerful as a full one.
Well, maybe, or like have it be an option for when you've got less than 4 players. So
right, so there's always the possibility you could fill in the slot.
Yeah, because normally is if you've set it to an open game so people can join, you do still get Bosco when you're the only person in the server, but then as soon as someone joins, he just goes away.
Right. Yeah, because it strikes me as weird because you can charm creatures, you can hack the bots, so you're gaining. You've got Betsy that can come onto your side, and it's like, so you are gaining allies.
Yeah,
it's like Bosco seems like a weird thing that you can't bring back.
I mean, obviously the real reason is like, it's a way to make solo work that they don't want to have be the overriding thing in multiplayer. In multiplayer, they want you to actually work as a team rather than use Bosco to do everything for you.
No, but I mean, maybe not like, as I say, like maybe a mini Bosco or some downgraded thing. Yeah, that's not quite as effective. Like maybe maybe you can't mine. I don't know, but then that's what I'd want for, I guess.
I mean, there was always talk about like, why not have a host-based upgrade tree for like the mule, so you could actually like slightly change how the actual mule works somehow.
Yeah, that could be kind of interesting.
But then, of course,
there are some perks that you get off being near the mule and things.
Yeah. But then, of course, that would rely on like, then it's a host-specific thing, which is slightly weird because it's like service-specific.
Oh, sure. Well, maybe you have to find those things in a level.
No, yeah, maybe.
Make
the mini mules actually functional instead of just...
Yeah, so you're making like a road, like the mission. It's not really roguelike, is it? But you're adding things you could potentially find and make the run different in the middle of a run. That could be an interesting way to go, especially on the longer ones. Maybe on a deep dive, right, where you keep things.
Yeah, between all 3 levels.
Yeah, that could be cool. You can take those for free, Doug.
Well, I mean, who knows what upgrades they've got planned next?
Yep.
Is it just going to be more guns, or are they actually going to do something new? Are flares ever going to get an upgrade tree, even though dwarves constantly mention it?
Yeah.
Well, supposedly they did actually have an upgrade tree at one point.
Before the game came out.
I think it was during early access at some point. They still had it, but then it got taken out. But then you've got these voice lines where the dwarves constantly say that the flares could use an upgrade. It's like, yes, I agree, they could, but you're not going to let us do that.
No, because otherwise why would the scout have mega flares?
Well, sure. I mean, there's other ways you could upgrade those flares. Make them smaller but more frequent.
Pew, 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 pew. Flare and auto flares.
Yeah, auto flares would be an interesting upgrade. It's like, as soon as it gets to a certain level of darkness, a flare just poops out of you. What is a game that does? Oh, Minecraft has that in quite a lot of mods, where it's just like, if you're standing in the dark, it automatically generates a little ball of light next to you. So as you're walking through dark caves, it's just automatically
just makes a torch. Durg.
Yep, Durg. Got to play more Durg.
Durgers.
Also, I guess we could briefly mention about Durg and Rob playing it somewhat, is like we've swapped classes because... well, mainly because Rob needed it for his season rewards thing.
But also, I've played a lot of Engineer and probably not... pretty much nothing else.
Yes, pretty much nothing else.
So it's nice to mix it up a bit.
That's cool.
So Rob gets to do scouting.
Yeah, and I'm starting to... Like, I thought the Engineer was a little bit... Like, ammo is a problem for some of the Engineer stuff at times. And it's like, no, I'm feeling that way more as Scout.
Yeah, especially before you have, like, some of the upgrades or even the overclocks.
You've
got to be
a lot more picky.
Well, yeah, and in a lot of the cases with some of the other classes' weapons, when in the upgrade tree, it's like, here's the one that gives you more arrow. You're like, why would I even need that? I'm never going to need that. I'll just take any of these other upgrades.
Sure,
in certain weapons, it's like, no, actually, I do actually want more arrow.
Surely I'll take the more damage and just be better.
Yeah. But yeah, the scout weapons...
It's also mildly interesting to see what you're using as NG, right?
Right,
Because you're using a different loadout to me.
Slightly. With the singular big turret and the prox mines.
Yeah, the prox mines seem pretty decent, actually.
Yeah.
I probably should have looked into that sooner.
It was the same thing that happened when I first used it, where I was like, this can't be that great because it's just going to explode, right? But then they like trigger 4 times or whatever. So it's basically just having 4 mines on top of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I perhaps should try that myself. That seems like a good strategy. Especially for, like, just surviving swarms.
Well, I mean, but then again, maybe we should actually try going back to the lure as well. Because it's the one you start with, and, like...
The dance.
Yeah.
The dancing dwarf hologram.
Yeah, it's the one you start with, and you think that it's not that great, but I feel like it's maybe undervalued it. We just didn't understand it that well.
Maybe. It feels like a teamwork weapon,
well,
right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're losing your actual damage-dealing grenades doing that. Then you drop it down and someone else just does an AoE. Or...
It does claim that the lure does explode at the end of its life cycle, but I'm not sure I've ever seen how much damage that does.
No, I've never really seen that. Dirt.
Yep, Dirk. And now Rob needs to talk about basically an entire month of games because he got well cut off last podcast.
I did get well cut off, but like I haven't actually had the chance to play as many games as I would like.
Well, what about the ones you got cut off on last time?
Yeah, what did we talk about? Pikuniku, I think, was the one I got cut off on last time.
Well, one of them, yes.
Yeah, I finished that thing.
Yeah.
I that's a fun little game. I enjoyed Pikuniku quite a lot.
It's quite ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you played it?
Well, I've seen much of it.
Yeah. It's not a difficult game, not by a long shot. You're playing it for the sort of the
dumb comedy.
Yeah, and it is pretty dumb. And I enjoyed that all the way through. Like it does. I'm getting a Rob review.
Yeah,
it's got a couple of little nitpicks. One are missable trophies and achievements.
Right.
There's definitely a couple you can't get back to even after the game finishes, and it lets you just back into the world to talk to people and be like, "You're right." There's definitely a few events you can't redo, and there are achievements tied to them, which is annoying. That means I got to replay the game. Some of those are actually tied behind co-op as well, which is like, so they have a trophy thing, which is like, find these hidden things in the game. And one of those is missable in solo.
Right.
But you don't get the achievement unless you do all of those and all of the ones that are dedicated to co-op.
Right.
And it doesn't really make the distinction in the UI that there are co-op trophies separate from the single player trophies. So that's kind of irritating. Meta stuff if you're an achievement person.
Yeah.
And there's a few elements like that about it. I can't go do the dance battle again. I have to replay the game and get back to that point to do if I want to do the dance battle again. And obviously a couple of achievements I have no idea what they're talking about, because that's fine.
Right.
There's a joke there somewhere that I didn't trigger or don't know how to trigger. That's fine. I can take that. But yeah, it's a cool little thing. Like the sort of slightly awkward naiveness of the music stands out to me quite a bit. It's got a real sort of like almost. I mean, this is quite an obvious comparison, but Loco Roco sort of quaintness and cuteness to the whole thing. But that's because like it's all, I guess, flat colors. It's the obvious kind of comparison.
It looks similar,
but but yeah, I get similar vibes just without like a considerably pared back production on the audio side compared to Loco Roco. That actually I was thinking like towards the end of Pikuniku, it's like, should I get hold of Loco Roco HD or whatever it was on the PlayStation 4 and play that thing in 4K? I guess I could emulate it pretty well on PSP PP, or PPSSPP or whatever the current PSP emulator du jour is. Or, I could just get my actual PSPs out.
Yeah.
Because those batteries haven't exploded yet, so it's fine. I say my PSPs. One of them's Dad's. But I've got that thing.
Wow, you've got my original PSP.
I've got your PSP, yeah.
Man, that was like, I think I got like a Japanese import, didn't I? PSP or something.
You might have done, yeah.
Yeah.
PSPs were cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never seen a screen like that because it was pre-iPhone. Like, it did have a dead pixel, but
Yeah, I remember you suffering from that a little bit, and it also had a little bit of what do they call it? The pickup time from certain colors to certain other colors wasn't very fast at all. So like black to white, I think, would smear across the screen. So like the black locos in Loco Roco would leave like a trail behind them, somewhat awkwardly, and that's just a limitation of the tech at the time. But for then that was a hell of a screen.
It was amazing. Yeah, I love playing it.
I really like at the time. Like I was playing. I think I played an awful lot of DS, and I played quite a lot of PSP because of things in my life that meant I had a moment that like actually, I could use a portable system right now. And I think I did like, other than playing like Advance Wars on the DS, I think I ended up sinking more time into the PSP overall, just playing things like Wipeout and stuff like that. It's
Wipeout Pure, Wipeout Pulse. I played that Ridge Racer was a good one because it had introduced some different mechanics to the series.
Yeah,
and then went into the later full console games.
I ended up playing a few PlayStation 1 games on it when there became a way to do that, because you could load stuff onto an SD card if you loaded PlayStation ROMs onto a card. It would just run them. Like you didn't even really need to hack it; it would just run them. Yeah, PSP was a great little system. Anywho, Pikuniku. We totally missed out on talking about the Gunk, which I played through in its entirety.
Right.
Meh. I mean, it's all right. It's a narrative-driven, not hugely threatening game. There is combat in it, and I would say the end sequence is is oddly difficult, I suppose, compared to the rest of the game. It's not hard by any stretch, but it's like it seems like an odd spike.
Right.
But it's yeah. So the story of the Gunk is it's like you seem to be like two down on their luck scrappers who have a ship, like because I don't know, ships I guess aren't expensive in mysterious spacefaring futures. And you stumble upon an energy signature that you don't think anyone else has seen, and you need because energy energy means money somehow in this universe. So you go there to this planet to investigate it, and just find that it's all covered in gunk, and it doesn't seem like there's anything here. And then the more gunk you remove, the stronger this energy pulse gets, and it's like intrigue and occasional radio chatter that reveals backstories and things like that, and mysteries of the planet, and. Basically, what it really boils down to is go to area, suck up all the gunk, a flashy sort of blooming effect happens where the world turns from being like grey and stony into like lush and botanical, and then you move on to the next area because that will like make some plants or make something unlock that means you can then do a thing. So it ends up being a very light puzzle, very light platformy experience for most of it.
Okay, yeah.
With a narrative bent. I think it's almost got like too many systems, like because you're resource gathering for a lot of it, like as well. Just like, oh, there's a path here. Where does that take me to? Oh, it takes me to a few more resources. And then there's an upgrade tree which you can use to make some of your scooping and hoovering abilities, or make your running slightly faster and things like that. All of it, I would argue, is completely unnecessary. You could probably not do any of that, and it would just be the same game. I don't think you need to engage with that stuff at all unless you're achievement hunting, and you want all the upgrades for the achievements. There's some that you have to do. There are some that are mandatory, like you need to get this. You can't get away with not getting resources, but and I think there's one for scanning everything, and I missed one item in the entire game, and I have no idea where it is, which is frustrating. So it's like, well, I'm not getting that achievement. And it seems all right, like, but it's not anything to show. It's not super long, which I think works in its favor. I think it starts to outstay its welcome a little bit. And I would say the story, to some extent, suffered. Well, the story is weird in the sense that, like, tonally, I don't quite settle with it. It has that sort of problem that I think I had with Guardians of the Galaxy and how they treated Rocket, in that like Rocket seems to be antagonistic just to be antagonistic at times, and like they cause falling outs within the team just because, rather than there being any particular good reason for it. Which is like narratively Guardians' only real flaw. But the like here, the characters. There's one point in the story where naturally the characters fall out a little bit, and it didn't really feel particularly fair on your character, or like in both directions. It's like they just seem to get a bit nasty with each other for no real reason, and maybe that's realistic. I don't know, but like, there was just an element to it where it's just like, I don't really understand why this fight is happening. Like, why are you angry at each other? What's going on? And then it just sort of resolves because people. And then, yeah, and then you carry on about the way. But the writing is slightly odd as well. I'm pretty sure it was written by someone who was British or something like that, because they're using phrases like bloody and I can't remember the other one, but there's some very English phrase. Yeah, there's some very Englishy, Britishy phrasing going on, but all the voice acting is American sounding, and it just sort of comes off as like, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't notice it so much if you're American. Like, presumably you must notice it from both sides, right? It's like just...
Yeah, in theory. The obvious question about the story of that game, though, is it secretly Earth all along?
No.
Oh, okay.
I can confirm that is not a spoiler. Like, it's not Earth.
Because that is what they've done repeatedly in the robot game, whatever that's called.
Yeah,
SteamWorld.
I couldn't really remember. Is this the same developer that is responsible for SteamWorld?
Yeah, that's why we thought it was weird at the time when that first trailer before it came out. It's like, this is a SteamWorld game. What are they doing?
Yeah, it is quite a departure. I mean, I guess it's like, you know, they made a fully 3D game, which is also sort of unusual for that team, right?
Yeah.
and on some level, I think it shows. Like, okay, their animation is a bit stiff. They basically sidestep doing any facial animation at all, really, and it kind of looks a bit like 2 frames of puppet animation at times.
Right.
And if they could avoid doing a new pose for a character, they do. It's like you know what I mean. There's some corners cut. I think that maybe. I think this was a learning experience for them. Let me put it that way. So that's the gunk. I think that's all I've got to really say about that. The other thing that's been my primary time sink is Cyberpunk 2077. Which you both saw me play for a brief moment and didn't really see much action, which is representative of most of the game.
Okay, but that's not necessarily bad.
It's not necessarily bad, but I think it's paced too far that way. So we talked a little bit about it this time, and I have some reservations about the look. It's an odd looking. It's kind of an odd looking thing. Yeah, the tone in Night City itself seems. Yeah, you've probably said it better in the past, Dan, where you described it as a bit tacky. A bit naff, I think was the phrase you used, actually. A bit naff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess. You can sort of see why, right? It's that... When was the Cyberpunk brand, like, originally created, right? It's that... in the 80s-ish, like, and it's kind of that vision of the future, and as a...
Yeah, but that could be cool if it's like an retro future... Blade Runner thing.
Sure, and you can sort of see that in like the costume designs and things. It's like there's a certain like Miami style, I suppose, to things, or like a beach style to a lot of things. Weirdly, with ridiculous color schemes. There's a certain rubbishness to like indicators and readouts in cars in particular, but then you also have like modern like looking LCD screens and holograms. It's like it creates this like it's kind of cool like in a weird way, but it also then creates that sort of like what do you call it? Like not really an anachronism, but some sort of like fight that doesn't make a huge amount of sense. And it's like why would this car have big bright lights and big buttons and LED numbers like an old school alarm clock and things like that? And then right next to it have what looks like a fully functioning LCD screen in the dash. And it's like, why would you do those two things? That doesn't make any sense.
Right, just for style, but it doesn't make sense in the real world.
The real technology aspect of it doesn't add up.
Well, unless it's some kind of implied law where it's just like everything has happened so quickly that everything has just been upgraded piecemeal, so you've got random bits of old tech right next to the super new tech.
And I definitely think there's a bit of that, right? Because this is obviously set in 2077, and they reference things that are supposedly happening now in bits of lore that you find, and it's like, well, that's not happening now, obviously. So yeah, I think you've probably hit the nail on the head there a little bit. Like there has been a rapid progression in tech, but then that's also then kind of shat upon by Johnny Silverhand's character, who mild spoilers died 50 years ago, and has like a silver robotic arm and was blowing up things in Night City and stuff like that.
Right, because he's a character from the original stuff, right? So therefore,
oh, is he? Okay.
I think so, and that's why he's from 20 something, right, rather than 2070 something, right?
Right. He's from he's from like a rock band called Samurai or something that was so only old people know of him because he was like a celebrity with like old music at some point in the past, but also a massive terrorist. But it took me like many hours to get to the introduction of Johnny Silverhand. Like I think I hadn't got there yet when I was on the last podcast. And I think that's a testament to how slow this game moves in terms of its main narrative. Like it does take ages to get anywhere, which sometimes I think is kind of neat because it means like every major story or every major thing you're doing, you go through the detail of the setting up, right? So like the main heist at the start of the game you go through the hassle of doing two different types of planning. Like, you have to go talk to a person, and you have to go do a thing for. Sometimes you have to acquire some equipment from a gang, and it's like that's kind of a thing. And it all leads into this then big briefing about how we're going to use this stuff, and then you go do the thing, and then the thing goes wrong naturally. And it's like, so there's a kind of an immersive. I wouldn't say realism. Realism's not the word I'm looking for, but there is a kind of methodical approach to how you're going into it. Like you have to live every part of this on the way to it. And then they do a hard cut at times, so you don't live every part of it.
Right.
Like, it's so it ends up being a slightly odd experience. But I want to say I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of in.
Yeah.
But I'm not blown away by it. As it feels like I perhaps should have been by it. Like, it feels like there's so much hype behind it and so much work gone into it and so much.
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red coming off Witcher 3 and its DLCs, widely regarded as one of the sort of best narrative experiences, and kind of just, after all of its patches, a very well playing game. And I don't really see that. It's missing a huge amount of polish, I would say. There are glitches all over the place. Even now, when they said they kind of said, yeah, we're kind of done fixing it now, and we're going to start moving on to new content. And I'm sort of scratching my head a bit, going, you probably need to work on patching it still.
Yeah,
I've seen like people holding little things. Sometimes they're really little things. Like, a character will be holding a cigar, but the cigar won't be in their hand. It'll be moving with their hand, but somewhere else in the scene. Just sort of floating in the air, following them about, but not quite following them about. Like, the coordinate mapping has gone wrong or something. Or moments where you'll park your car, turn around, hear a large bang, your car has gone somewhere else. And there's like a wake of destruction behind it. I had one moment where I was doing a motorcycle ride across the desert outside Night City, and my NPC clearly was having to do some sort of catch up, I guess, in the coding, in the scripting, so they were near me, but instead what happened was they'd like almost teleported to exactly on top of me, which then threw me across the map in comedy fashion. And sometimes you can see some of that stuff happening, like on the mini map. You can see like when NPCs like are forced to come to you, because they'll just suddenly start going in a straight line towards you through walls and things. Animations don't always work. I'm sure I've had one of the side missions just balk out where I couldn't complete it. I might have done something wrong. I wasn't quite sure what was going on there, and maybe it was something I couldn't do yet, but I couldn't quite figure out what it wanted me to do, so left it. It's not
the scripting failed or something.
Yeah, something like that. There's a general lack of reliability and polish, which I know is hard in an open world game. We can't get around that, but
it seems like on the one hand, like there is some good narrative stuff, at least individual stories that want to draw you in. But then there's a bunch of
interesting things here and there.
Yeah. But then the game just keeps taking you out of it, or putting things in the way of getting sucked into it.
Yeah. It's. I wouldn't say there's any one super original idea in it. That's kind of the problem, and that's probably because of the source. A lot of the ideas it's exploring are things that we've seen elsewhere in this medium, somewhat expected stuff
in this genre.
And one of the main plots, I guess, is the sort of spoilery, but is this idea of transferable consciousness, which is obviously done a whole heap of times in sci-fi media.
Sure.
And how that, I suppose it's interesting in the sense that, like, this actually kind of messes with you. Or at least how it happens here kind of messes you up.
I think the one thing that I found most weird about it, because I hadn't, until I'd seen it when Rob was playing it, that I didn't really perceive, and is purely just because of expectations of the genre, I guess, is just like, your character seems pretty much totally fine with everything that's going on. He's just like totally happy. He doesn't really care.
I mean, I think there's I think you can pick more combative
but
conversation trees in like the non-mainline story trees where things have to happen in a certain way.
Yeah,
you can definitely pick more antagonistic ways of talking.
But even then, he doesn't seem even that angry.
No, I'm not entirely sure the sequences you saw were that. They're not the worst sequences for that. There's definitely some way it feels like you should probably be angrier. And there are times where I've had other characters with me who are angry at the situation. Right. Actually, no, one of those you did see, I think. Yeah, where the other... Judy, the BD lady.
Oh, right, yeah.
Green hair, and we were talking to that Ripperdoc. The slightly unscrupulous Ripperdoc.
Yeah.
And she's super angry at him because he's probably sold off her friend. And like you're just going, calm down. We need the information, and it's like sort of made sense in that scenario. But then there's a whole sequence afterwards where she's pissed at you because you're like you played good cop.
But also, like, what happens to you at the start of the game seems like it might have, that is a reason to be pissed.
Oh yeah. Minor spoiler territory. You have a limited time to live, apparently.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
And that's kind of the main driver for why you're doing what you're doing.
Like a replicant, or or JC Denton when he's got his kill switch activated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not far off. Yeah, in some ways. Yeah, you've got a limited lifespan, so you need to get shit done. But it's a game, so what tends to happen is you need someone to do a thing for you, but they won't do a thing for you until you do a billion things for them.
Yep.
For them, yeah.
Yep.
Or like it is the main quest, but it's like you've got to do errands to continue the main quest.
Yeah. I have kind of run into the problem where there is leveling in the game, obviously. Like you level your character up and you perk everything up, and it's got the skill tree is borderline excessive, but at least it's nice that there's a lot of options, and I haven't quite figured out if I want to like max spec in a certain direction or not, but it also has that those systems kind of play a bit like Skyrim style in that the more you do them, the more you build up experience in those areas, and those areas give you like extra perks in that area as well.
Which was funny when I was like, can you gain athletics leveling by jumping?
And I just jumped for a couple of seconds and it's like, oh, you totally can.
Except not quite as exploitable as like Oblivion, where you can just jump and get XP constantly.
Yeah,
in this game it seems to be weirdly like time gated or something.
Something like that. Yeah, like it doesn't pop all the time. So I'm now like, because I know that's a thing, I'm kind of like making a point of sprinting everywhere. Because now I know it's going to build up my athletics thing. There's another little thing, I suppose, that's kind of taking you away from... Well, maybe, but it's kind of taking you away from, like, just being in the world, right? It's
and
like,
also, surely in the sci-fi universe, you should just be able to upgrade your sprint. Like, you don't need to actually exercise.
I mean, I think you can.
I mean, sure, you probably can as well.
Like a Deus Ex.
Yeah, I think you can.
Activate the legs.
Activate legs.
Yeah, there's no, like button press F key to, like, turn your legs on. They're just, like, passive. So I haven't quite figured out the complexities of some of that stuff yet. And the game doesn't do a great job at telling you either. You're just kind of thrown into the UI that's like got everything in it.
Yeah, I feel like that might be a CD Projekt Red problem. I feel like the very small amount I played of Witcher 2, I feel like the menus were quite similar there, where it's like, here's a giant menu full of stuff that you don't know how any of this works or what any of it means.
Yeah, and I was complaining last time that there was some stuff I didn't know where it asked me to read a thing, and I couldn't find where in the UI that thing was, because I've never had a need to go there, and it took me a little while to find it. Obvious now I know, but it's just like, I didn't know. So it took me a little while to hunt it down. I'm sure I had an original point, but I got sidetracked on the perk system. What are we talking about?
I don't even know.
I don't know. I do kind of like it. Like there is something to it, but my worry is that I'm going to burn out on it. Like I'm already feeling like I might burn out on it. Yeah, mainly because the progress through those trees seems extraordinarily slow.
Right.
And there's so much in those trees that I'm nowhere near at all. Oh no, that was what I was going to say. Like, yeah, I was talking about the leveling system because it's got a leveling system, but I think it does a somewhat poor job at telling you when you're about to do something where the guys there are way higher level than you.
Right. It doesn't warn you enough.
No, like it supposedly has a system where if you look at someone, like it did tell you at the start of in one of the tutorials near the start of the game, where if you look at them and it gives you like a icon saying if it's got like a skull icon, you should probably avoid this. And I'm like, I don't think that was quite or what I took away from that is quite right. What I think is actually the important part is that icon was red. I think the skull just indicated that was a boss character that they were using in the tutorial.
Right.
So I went into some areas and thought, oh, these are just dudes. This will be fine. Accidentally notified them to my position because I'm trying to play it stealthily, and it's fairly forgiving as a stealth game. But if you get noticed, everyone's alerted permanently.
Right.
There's no they will downgrade from combat to alerted, but it's like you're in that yellow state in Metal Gear the entire time. They never go back to just being normal.
Actually, realistic.
Yeah,
stealth.
which is kind of nice in a way. Except the barks they make once they're in.
They constantly do it.
Yep, they constantly do it. They're really annoying. The subtitles frequently don't match what they're saying, which is interesting. And like some of the the barks, right? Like so they'll like the weirdest ones are like where they sound confused, but they're in the alert state. So you'll have alerted one guy, and they'll be like, "There's someone here," and it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then you notice on your mini map that everyone's now got a blinking red thing around them to say they're alerted. But then there'll be like one guy on the map who's like constantly going, "What's going on? What's going on?"
Well, I mean, maybe
hey, what's going on?
Maybe that sort of makes sense, except presumably the idea would be like everyone is in communication.
Well,
it would make sense if this guy had just like heard the alarm and been like, "What the fuck's going on? Why are we on alert?" I don't know.
But then they sort of sometimes go, "Huh? What's going on?" And then they'll do one of the like antagonistic barks, and it's like, "Come out! We only want to talk." What's going on? it's like it just feels really odd. But yeah, as I say, I walked into a couple of places that were just marked as side missions. Like, here's a gig you can do, and it's like, all right, cool, let's go do that. I'm right next to it. Walk into this thing that looks like any other thing in the game, like no real warning. I'm entering a high level area, get noticed, and just get rocked in like a couple of bullets to the face. And it's just like, okay, that's I clearly can't do this yet. But there is no real. The problem. And this is compounded by the fact that the map has the quests have this idea of like they give you a danger level for it, but as I found out, you can't trust that danger level. Like I did one that was marked as danger level very high, which I think is the highest level it will give something, and I guess it's doing some leveling based on what you are and what the things are. And it was the easiest thing I've done in the whole game. There was no challenge to it at all. It was I think they're doing that like sometimes as a fake out to be like, oh, this seems a bit risky, but you do it and it's fine. And it's like, okay, that's okay. But there was definitely a couple times where it's like I got into a very high danger combat scenario, which was easy. So I don't trust that rating anymore. Mm-hmm. So I go and just do the jobs that are nearby. And most of the time it's fine, but every now and then it's not. And that's quite annoying. I wish there was just some way of scanning or like getting an idea that they are way more leveled than you. Rather than
that is what that system was meant to be for. But if they've either exploited it for like fake outs or it just doesn't work correctly, then that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's not organized by like the area of the map getting increasingly difficult. It's just randomly. There'll be a difficult thing randomly somewhere else on the map. Mm. So you can't be like, this area of the map is the hard zone or anything.
Yeah. I suppose it was an area I hadn't been in much, but I'd been there a little bit. I'd done a couple of main stuff there. And then this side gig was super hard for some reason. Mm. Anywho, I'm sticking with it for now. I'll play it. I'll play a bit more. See how we get. But we're entering, I want to play that Trek to Yomi that's just come out. I kind of really want to play that. And also, my brother reminded me that he got me a copy of Shadow Warrior 3 that I actually kind of want to play. Because, like Asian-inspired Doom, what's not to like? It should be great. And it does look kind of fun. So I should probably play that soon. Yeah, so like maybe I don't want to spend 200 odd hours on Cyberpunk. I don't know. I'm getting that impression it might take that long.
Do you think if you take a break, you're gonna end up stopping?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I think we knew this was a risk, right, with this game. I feel like you've got some stuff out of it.
Yeah, it's not a terrible game. Like, it definitely doesn't. No. I think at this point in time, it definitely doesn't deserve you avoiding it just because of what happened at launch.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got, like me, I'm playing on a Series X, and it's mostly fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. It's not blowing me away with its visuals or anything like that. But but at least it runs acceptably, not perfectly, but acceptably.
Yeah.
Probably avoid it, I guess, if you've got PS4 or Xbone.
Yeah. But on the new consoles,
on the new consoles,
enough power to make it work.
Just drive through the pain.
Yeah, just brute force.
And I do wonder if it's a game where there comes a point where I can just mainline it if I do get bored, like with the world and exploring it and stuff like that. Can I mainline it? Can I level up quickly enough to do that? Or do I have to engage with the side stuff? Or is it like level managing the main stuff in some way?
Do you think you would give that a go?
I mean, that's what happened in Horizon eventually.
Yeah.
I got to the point where it's just like, I'm just mainlining this now. And that doesn't happen to me that often.
No.
But as I say that, as those words come out of my mouth, I think that's happened in the last few open world games I've played. There just comes a point where it's like, I'm mainlining this.
Yeah, let's just get the power through.
Maybe it's just open world fatigue. Maybe I'm hitting it.
It's not as bad as, I don't know, I feel like, well, I don't know, but I feel like open world everything has died down somewhat from the peak, like Assassin's Creed days. But I guess it's still really prevalent, isn't it?
I played an open world Halo. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I suppose
that's how about it still
is. Yeah, it's still about. Oh, that's a shame. I thought that could have worked. Open world Halo, and it does to a certain extent.
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
it just needed a bit more than what was there. Honestly, I think it's it's more than a proof of concept, I was enjoying my time with it, but I wanted more Halo from it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole different thing.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and everything else. If I've done anything else, I cannot remember it right now. So that will be me.
Okay. Cool. How are we doing? I haven't got any games to talk about.
No, haven't gone back to Breath of the Wild or an old Ass Creed.
No, but I'll let you know if I do. Not this time. But
not at all. Not even Wordament or Wordle or Hurdle.
I
quite like playing Hurdle. Hurdle's
good. I think I know music, but I don't know a lot of pop music that they put on Hurdle, I think.
They don't know the first 1 second of pop music, you mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I know the first 1 second of the songs that I know.
I mean, that's the thing.
MP3 collection.
As I've sort of noted with my scores on Hurdle, it's like you either know it or you don't, and the ones you know you get in the first second, like easily, and like there's very few where you only get it like with a larger chunk of track being revealed to you. So you end up winning or losing, basing at Hurdle.
I saw a video of Jack White doing basically Hurdle 1 second for Beatles songs. He can recognize any Beatles song with 1 second.
Wow, that's quite impressive.
Which is pretty cool.
Because a lot of them sound pretty similar.
Yeah. But I feel like that's
not a knock
against
the Beatles, but there's a sound thing involved, right?
Yeah. But if you know those records well enough, then you're going to get it, I suppose. But yeah, that's easier than all recorded music. Or I guess Hurdle is a bit narrower than that, but still.
It's interesting sometimes because there's definitely some songs where what I thought was the intro was not quite the intro, right? Maybe I'm remembering a radio edit rather than the edit that they picked for the game, or whatever's on SoundCloud. I think they're streaming everything off SoundCloud to make it work.
Right.
Was it a few days ago? ELO's Mr. Blue Sky which I thought was a nice obvious intro, but actually it has a sort of extra little bit of intro before the intro that I wasn't aware of that threw me. Like it's the same piano riff, but it's like slightly dulled down, and then there's that bit of it's got like a radio guy, isn't it? It's like, it's a beautiful day or something with blue sky.
Oh yeah, it does.
And it's like, and it's sort of just you could in that 1 second you could just hear like one piano chord and it just go with that guy, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like all I remember is the piano from Mr. Blue Sky just going dun 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 dun. Yeah, and that threw me, and Gnome was like, no, it's that. It's like, all right, I've got nothing to lose. Let's type your answer in, Gnome. Oh, it's right. Damn.
It's a cool idea.
I like it.
And then the original Wordle, like, I don't know. I don't quite understand it. Like, isn't it it's all luck, isn't it? Surely.
To an extent.
Because, like,
but
if you put in a valid word, then that's just as likely as any other word to be the answer, surely.
Yeah, I mean the clues, obviously, the mastermind like clues guide you to what it actually is.
But as long as you, you put in a word, and then as long as you then use all the clues and don't accidentally miss a clue, then if you put in every guess, if you put in a legit word that matches all the clues you've got up to that point, then it's just luck whether that's the word. Right?
Yeah, it depends how you're playing it. Like, I play with hard mode turned on, which means I'm forced to use the hints. But you don't have to. So if you turn hard mode off, you could like I guess the one of the plays is you just burn your first 2 or 3 words to rule out letters.
Right.
So you could type 3 totally unrelated words that if they don't share letters, for instance, between them, you then clear quite a large portion of the available letters, and it makes guesses 4, 5, and 6 pretty easy.
It's quite hard even when you have to use the hints. You just have to come up with other words that contain the one thing you do have that also
and then burn
as
much letters, but they're not as effective because you're using the hints, right?
Right. You're losing at least one slot.
Yeah. So I specifically turn hard mode on, so like it forces you to always use the hints. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose I hadn't thought that you can deliberately ignore the hints.
Oh yeah, you totally can. Yeah.
Okay, well maybe that's what I was missing then. But in hard mode then?
In hard mode, yeah, you do end up... I think like people on Twitter call it like the trap or something, the Wordle trap, where like sometimes you do really well on the first couple of guesses and you open up quite a lot of stuff in the right place. But then you quickly realize that in the remaining slots, there's quite a lot of possibility. And because you've like boned yourself by having by getting greens early, by getting correct letters in the right place early, you can't then explore much of the keyboard to rule out letters. So you've basically got to make final guesses in all the rest of the spots. And
I see.
And you can be trapped out effectively because there's too many possibilities because you got too close early.
You were too lucky early on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see the nuances. But then in hard mode, there's nothing you can do about that. Whereas in normal mode, you can just ignore the... Yeah, you could
take the greens and just go, okay, I realise that I'm trapped, rather than try a whole load of potential guesses, which is tempting because you want those... Wordle tries to make it seem like you getting it earlier is a good thing, right, than getting it later. Number of guesses is important for some reason. I mean, it's not, but, you want to. You want to get those... You want to get those 3s more often than you get those 4s.
Yeah.
So you can realize you're trapped and then go, well, that's fine. I'll just burn a word to get rid of a whole load of letters, and then you're probably not trapped after that.
I see. Okay, interesting. Never talked about Wordle before, so I realize I'm way behind the curve.
But that is literally all there is. Everything we've talked about is like that is the whole thing. That is the entirety of Wordle.
Fair enough. Okay.
But it is kind of addictive. I do still do it every day when I remember. I forget some days.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's the games we've been playing.
And now it actually is 6:30.
It is.
Yeah.
Some time has passed.
Time has passed. Yeah. Well, this was a podcast, and we also do videos. So check out our YouTube channel, where we have currently a let's play of Ocarina of Time. which is progressing quite nicely. So check that out. Some fun times had there. This podcast can be found if you found it on your podcast player. We also have a website, happysalad.net.
This podcast can be found if indeed you did.
Assuming if you found it through some other way, then do check out our website, because that's the primary way to get it.
I mean, what is the alternative? That the podcast was forced upon you?
That's definitely possible.
Well, you could have been sent a link to it on iTunes,
or I guess you could have just randomly discovered a file on an MP3 player,
an old MP3 file
on someone's phone, like 50 years in the future, with some vintage collector rummaging through your stuff.
Yeah, because if you want, you can download the MP3 file from happysalad.net.
When I eventually die and my kids get curious about what was on all these hard drives.
Yeah, it turns out it was all our podcasts. And there'll be another one along in a couple of weeks, so tune in then. But for now, that's it. Goodbye.
Wish.